Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. All right, everybody, welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. Today, we are marking our last episode, at least I expect it to be the last episode of our Spring Bear series that we've done. It's, I initially intended it to last for the month of February, but I think we're going to end up a week or two into March, but that's okay because that just means that all that turkey content is going to be pushing into the beginning of April, which will get you right into the opener for all of these critters. But anyways, I am excited to bring back Joe Kondelis tonight. If you guys don't recall, go back and listen to a previous episode with him where we covered kind of his start in bear hunting and the American Bear Foundation, but he's coming on today. We're going to talk all things bear hunting and get some updates on the foundation, get some updates on what kind of legislation and bills are going on around the country right now, things to keep an eye on, and hear some hunting stories. So, Joe, welcome back to the show, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to jump on these and talk about bears and bear hunting. And, if you ask me back on, I must not have sucked too bad the first time. So
no, you're great, man. You're one of the easy guests because you're enthusiastic and like what you're talking about.
I'll talk your ear up.
Yeah, so you make hosting fun and easy. But yeah, man. Well, like I said, thanks so much for coming back on. Appreciate it. Let's just dive right in, man. Like I kind of teed you up before we hit the record button. Love to hear a good bear hunting story, and it sounds like you got a good adventure out of Alaska to share with us.
Yeah, it's always hard to, I think when you think about it for long enough, you come up with different cool little bear stories. But like when someone puts you on the spot, like the grizzly bear hunt I went on in Alaska is so memorable just for so many reasons. I wouldn't say the hunt was overly crazy, but it's grizzly bear in Alaska. It was my number one dream animal. My best friend came on the hunt with me, and the whole backstory is kind of funny. I had caribou hunted up there on a drop camp with Ovis Outfitters, and man, that might have been 18 or 50, I don't know, long time ago. And they flew us in, dropped you off, and then you got all your camp stuff, and they're just like, yeah, call us when you're ready to come out. And so we did that hunt, and me and some buddies, and man, we had a blast. It was on the north slope of the brook. So we flew into Prudhoe Bay and then went to Happy Valley and then flew out of Happy Valley and out into the to where we were hunting. And man, when we would fly in and out of there, we were seeing bears, flying over, and you'd see muskox and just things that are just so wow, I'm literally looking at a muskox. But we saw enough bears to where I was really got intrigued and had always wanted to hunt grizzly bear. That's always been my number one thing. And when they picked us up, we went back to their lodge, little kind of cabin on the Ivashak River. And I was kind of asking Emily, I was like, what's it like to get a bear tag up here? Is it hard? And kind of what are your hunts like for brown bear or grizzly bear? They call them Arctic grizzlies up there. They're just they're an interior grizzly that live on the north slope of the Brooks Range where there's no trees, and very beautiful bears. They're very blonde. They get real blonde. They get mostly just eat berries and roots. It's tough living on the north slope of the Brooks Range. You're in the Arctic, above the Arctic Circle. So she was like, oh, it's a draw for non-residents, and it's been a pretty tough draw. And I said, all right, well, by the time I'm 40, I want to come grizzly bear hunting. And I think I might have been 35 or something then. And Emily was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Well, got to about 38, 39, and I was like, I'm going to start thinking about that. I don't think I have the money, but I never probably will, so I'll figure it out. I reached out to her, and she's like, well, we need to start putting you in. It's probably going to take a few years to draw. Okay, that sounds good. So that first year was, that would have been 2019, I think. Yeah, I was 39. So I put in, they do all the stuff for you, and kind of worked out a deal and a price and talked about the logistics of if I did draw, and I kind of didn't expect to. And draw comes out in this time of year. February is when the draw, or January, kind of February is when the draw comes out. And she calls and she's like, hey, you drew that grizzly bear tag. And I always laugh because I wasn't happy. I was so freaked out because I had no way to pay for that hunt at that time. I figured I'd have 3, 4 years to, like, save up and kinda like I had a little money saved, but not enough to go on the hunt in that year. And so I was like she's like, "Well, are you not glad?" I'm like, "Well, I am, but I'm trying to, like, process how I'm gonna do this at the same time." So I had told her, she's like, "Well, I can sit we can, like, decline or you can just not come." And I'm like, "No, no, let me figure it out." So came home, told my wife, she's like, "What are you doing? This is crazy." So I thought about it long enough and kinda was like, "You know what? You only friggin' live once. I'm gonna try and figure this out." So I owned my truck, I didn't have any payments or anything on it, so I strolled down to the bank and was very fiscally irresponsible and took a loan out on my truck and paid the down payment to go on my grizzly hunt. And so that's all kind of the backstory. We hunted it in it was late August up there of that year, and I had always been up there. I'd been up there that other time before, and it was July. And August, I knew there was a potential, but August above the Arctic Circle can get pretty miserable late August, early September. And so the hunting was just so different than I expected. Like our grizzly bears are so different in Wyoming compared to like what those bears on the Arctic. Any bear, I think any of the grizzly bears in Alaska where they're hunted and there's an abundance, they definitely have different behavior. And so when we got into the main lodge, like we were going to fly out the next day and we flew out into a base camp, couple tents. We're on the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, so very specific rules on like what you can and can't do. And so, we were kind of learning our ropes about that, and we flew in, and basically, like Nate Peterson was our guide, and he was kind of like, "Man, you and Zach don't really need a guide, but you legally have to have one. Like, you guys could do this." But I think the biggest thing at first that really was hard for me to grasp was like he would not let we could not go walking and hiking and like spot and stalk looking for bears. He's like, we go to that knob above camp and we sit there every day, all day until we find a bear. And then we make sure it's the one we want to go after. And then we'll go after it. He's like, cause after like one day up there of just sitting in glass and we were getting kind of antsy, I was like, man, let's just go walk back in one of these drainages, look for some sheep and maybe we'll bump a bear and whatever. He's like, oh no. He goes, if you start walking around out here, those bears, he's like, they're around out here. We just can't see them yet because it was terrible weather. And he's like, they'll pick up your scent and they'll be out of the country. I was like, really? He's like, oh yeah, you can't be spreading your scent all over. These bears won't even come around. So yeah, we had 4 horrible days of weather. Like from day 1 to like day 4 or 5 was just we would sit and we'd go up from our camp right at light and we'd sit on this knob in a little kind of like a teepee shelter, like a one of the original kind of seek outside teepees. It wasn't a seek one. And we 3 of us would cram in there with the front open and we'd just glass all day long, get out. It was pouring, windy, sleet and snow, and you couldn't see very good, poor visibility. I had every pair of clothes I brought on. I mean, it was cold. And mentally, it was just really getting exhausting. We hadn't seen a bear, seen some wolverines, which was like one of the coolest things ever. I saw 3 wolverines, didn't buy a wolverine tag, which I regret now. But yeah, so we did that. And then it was around about day 5, it kind of cleared off. It wasn't sunny, but it was clear and it kind of quit, just like light rain, kinda then it stopped, and then it kinda just was cloudy and, warmed up a little bit, and it was like, as soon as that rain and that crappy weather quit, like, we started picking up bears across the valley. The river that we were on was when we got there was like, I could jump across it in 2 or 3 skips and barely get wet. We watched that thing in 4 days get so dang big that it was like and we had a little pack raft. It was to the point where, like, I don't think we can cross that anytime in the next day or 2. We gotta let it come down. So we kinda need to find a bear on our side or put one to bed over there and hope we can get across this river in a day or 2 because it just been pouring. And so, yeah, we started picking up bears and we found a bear late one afternoon that afternoon and, just caught a glimpse of it and then it didn't see it again. And so my buddy Zach, he always likes to tease me because he calls me the bear whisperer. He's like, "You always find them before everyone. Like, I'm gonna find one before you one day." And I'm like, "I don't you probably won't, but we'll keep trying." And so he always sees me because he spotted this bear that I killed, and I never seen it. And he spotted it, and we never seen it again for a while. And then we were looking back over there after a couple hours, and it popped back over the ridge, and we saw it, and our guide Nate took a good look and he's like, that's definitely one we should go look at. Don't have to go kill it, but we should probably go over there. So we had to go about 2 miles across a couple little side drainages at the bottoms and through some marshy, boggy stuff to get to where we could actually like get a good look at this bear, see if it was a boar, check. Looked good size wise, but I wanted to kill a boar. And I was like, I want a pretty one. I'm not so worried about how big it is because we did see a big, really dark griz on the other side of the river. I was like, I came up here on this hunt for bears that are like these Arctic, very traditional looking Arctic grizzlies. So this bear was fitting all the kind of like the metrics that I had in my mind. And I wasn't like, I'm going to wait for one that's bigger because a lot of people think that like just because it's a grizzly bear, it's going to be massive. But these Arctic grizz are not massive bears.
Right.
They are, man, an 8-foot one is real big. And so, you're not looking at bears much bigger than our big black bears. And so you kind of got to put that into perspective too, because you think about bears and grizzly bears and brown bears, you're like, oh, they're all massive. It's like, oh, you get up there, it's a little different worlds. Yeah, this bear was kind of fitting the mold, and we went up and looked at it real close. I'd say across this little side drainage, he was up on this ridge, and he had like whole sections of this hill tore apart. It was so neat to see, like knowing that now, that's how I started looking for bears after we had killed this one and we're just in camp for 3 days. I'd like look for the hillsides that were tore up. I mean, they will tear up and root all these hillsides. And he had come over and was ripping up a hillside, and man, we got a good look at him. I got some great pictures in the spotter, and we bumped back down off the ridge. And I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. I think that one's awesome, And my buddy Zach was like really good. And it's so nice sometimes having a good friend on a hunt with you, because especially him, he and I have hunted as kids together all the way till we still hunt all the time together now. So we know each other's kind of like, he's getting down, I need to pick him up, or vice versa, or like he'll do something stupid if I don't. This is usually me doing something stupid and he's got to be the voice of reason. He's like, hey man, you don't have to kill this bear just because it's the first one. I was like, no, I understand. And he's like, it's a nice one, but like, don't feel, because we still have like 4 days of hunting. And that's always in your head too when you go on one of these big hunts, is like, what if I don't get one? Like, am I prepared for that? And I wasn't quite there yet because we still had some time and we just started seeing bears. But I just kind of was like, that is everything I came up here for. I'm happy. If I kill that bear, I'd be super happy. And so he's like, Roger that, let's go kill it. And so we bumped down the hill and had to cross another little draw. And then we had to climb up the ridge to get on the same hill as the bear that we were after. And that's always tough on these, like, the top of the hill was very rounded, and we knew the bear was like on the top. And so by the time we got anywhere close, I mean, we were going to be really close to be able to see him. So we had the wind really good and we made this awesome stalk, and we got kind of close, dropped packs, and I had my bipods kind of out because I was going to try and kneel or lay down. And so I already had him out, and Zach's filming. We got this whole thing on video. It turned out really good. But he's filming and kind of behind me, and I'm behind Nate, and we're kind of going around this alder bush. And all of a sudden the bear comes up over the ridge, and he's like, stands there and he looks down at us, and Nate's just like, there he is. And I was like, holy crap. So I didn't have time to like really lay down or anything. So freehand at like 180, I shot, then I hit the bear and he started spinning. And they have a pretty strict policy up there. I don't know if all outfitters do, but that as soon as that bear is hit, they're shooting. I was like, okay. Well, Nate fires one off, and then I jack another shell in. Well, as I was jacking another shell in, I probably would have got 2 off right away. I missed my return on my bolt freehand, and you can see it on the video. Anyways. So he got one off, and then I instantly shot again, and that bear just went. It did a couple more spins and then it just dropped. And so like, it was really a crazy thing because you're doing all this stock and then it's instantly like go time. You really don't have time I didn't have time to get like stressed or worried or nervous. Well, boy, when that was over, I was just like, holy crap. It just like, it all came out. Like, I was just like, wow. So we did the whole thing, walked up to it, and it was just an incredible bear. Beautiful blonde boar, dark eye circles, like just an awesome presentation of that Arctic grizzly. Kind of population. Now we packed all the meat out and packed the hide out, and on the way over there, I had somewhere lost my Swarovski binoculars. I figured it was when we jumped up one of the creeks. They fell out of my bino pouch. I didn't
Ooh.
realize it until we actually were, like, getting close to the bear. I'm like, "Oh, I lost my binos." Normally, that's like a very serious thing, and I was like, "Screw it, let's just keep going." And on the way back, we found my binos in the creek, so that was a big
Oh,
deal, and
perfect.
yeah, and got back and just kinda, like, enjoyed an evening of, like, kinda reveled in it a little bit, and we're like, "Man, we still have some time here," and so the rest of that hunt, like, we couldn't get flown out, and so part of what happens and why they're so strict on that second shot from the outfitter or the guide, our outfitter started running planes over to the other side of the brooks because there was a mauling that had happened with a hunter and a guide. And basically, similar situation, like shot the bear got down in the alders, and then the guide went after it, and one of them got mauled. And basic like Matt, our outfitter and Emily are like, we just don't risk it. If like, I talked to Nate about it, he's like and we looked, I hit the bear perfect, and his second shot was, like, right by mine, and then my third shot, they were all in a group of like that. I mean, the bear was he's like, "I just don't know what's on the other side of the hill, and if that bear starts running and I gotta go track it," and then it's like, it's just a safety issue. I was like, "Hey, I understand." I would've felt worse if I, like, nicked it or something, and then he put a kill shot on it, but, like, I took a picture of, like, the exits on the one side of, like, because I was like, if someone asked me, I'm gonna show them. Like, I have the picture of the side of the bear all skinned out with where the bullet holes were and stuff, and I was just like, I understand. That was a hard thing to kinda get through at first was, someone else shooting your bear, but that's part of it. I know they do that with dangerous game in other places, so, yeah, then it
Yeah, and,
proceeded to get it got
you're
super
not
nice on us, and we stayed in camp
right.
for 3 more days because they were flying, people into that mauling, and man, we started seeing bears. Sun came out, there were bears all over the place. I was like, "Damn it, I wish we could keep hunting up here," but it was coming to an end, and we got picked up and out of there.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story, and I mean, that perfect kinda mix of sucking it up in the weather and waiting and waiting and waiting and then having it come together and be exciting at that last minute, which, I mean, I've not been on a grizzly or brown bear hunt up in Alaska, but just from talking to people that have, we had Dalton Gray on last couple of weeks, he's a grizzly guide or a brown bear guide, up there in Alaska, and it sounds to be kinda it. It's one of the most boring hunts in the world until it's not. And, a couple things, just for listeners with the brown bears and the grizzlies, for folks that don't know, and I mean, especially if you've never been up to Alaska, you probably wouldn't really have thought about this, but, the brown bear and the grizzly, you'll hear people use those terms, and genetically, it's the same bear, right? It's the same bear on Kodiak that it is up where you were on the Brooks Range. The difference really being, I mean, obviously, you can get some color variations and stuff, but the big difference is the food source. Like you said, it's
Yeah.
tough living up on the Brooks Range compared to those bears down in Kodiak or out of Dillingham and, the Southeast Alaska or Southwest Alaska bears. They're eating salmon like crazy, right? So they get an opportunity to get big. The winters aren't as long, aren't as harsh. So yeah, it really does. A lot of it, from what I understand, has to do with where they live and, habitat that they live in and the length of the winters and food sources. But I agree with you. Those interior grizzlies are just gorgeous,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to be meaner from what I understand, probably because 'cause they're hungrier than their, southern brothers, so
I don't think they're as accustomed to people as some of the other ones are. You see those salmon streams and there's bears and there's dudes, fishing on the Kenai and that other anyways, and the bears are in the river with them. And it's like the food abundance is so high, they're not really as aggressive, I think. I'm sure they're aggressive enough, but, what I found was way different than our bears here up there was, there's definitely a fear of humans. I think they're more curious in a lot of respects because they don't see a lot of people, like, they'll smell something and be like, "I don't know what that is." Like, we ran into it with our caribou hunt. I mean, I saw one, I don't even know, it was a mile plus away, and my buddy was like, "What is it gonna happen?" Like, "Dude, that bear's so far away, it's not gonna come over here." And it started walking to us. I think it could smell something, and then it got close enough, and I was like, "That bear's probably still running." Like, he took off and ran once he found out it was a human. So that's a nice Boy, that's a nice change from what I'm used to, just hunting in Wyoming and Montana, with our grizzlies, so it was nice. Definitely, I think mentally was the hardest hunt I've ever done, the most mentally taxing. I'm talking out I mean, days, and these guys a lot of people do that. We I've gotten so used to being able to, like, glass a knob, move just to get a little different vantage point, but maybe glass in the same country, spending all day doing that, like, you park your butt and you don't move, and you glass, and, like, coulda went back to the tent and chilled and, like, warmed up, but I was like, "We're friggin' here, dude, we're bear hunting, like, this is what we came for, we're getting the full adventure." What made that hunt so much more special was having Zach there because he got to share in it with me, and, like, just to have a buddy that's like, "This has been your thing forever, like, I'm not missing that." And I was just like, "Are you serious, dude?" And he's like, "Find out how much," and it was really reasonable for him to go up and be a companion with us. And man, that it would have been fun, but not near the meaning on that hunt, and, it just it talks to how important I think that is in hunting too, is sharing it with others, like, that hunt was more special for that, and got back, I got my skull and everything, and, there's a couple here that does replicas, and they'll replicate, like, bighorn sheep and all that stuff, so I had a replica skull done for him, and so,
That's
it's
cool.
kinda our bear. It's cool. I gotta shoot it, but we gotta go. So I keep telling him, "When's my turn? Like, when are you gonna tell me that you gotta get your butt in gear and we're going to Alaska? I'm waiting," and he hasn't called me for it yet, so
Yeah, yeah, I mean, gosh, that's, that's not an inexpensive trip, right? If you're the bear hunter. And I don't know how much you paid, but I know that I've seen bear hunts listed anywhere from 30 to 50K. Probably, I would imagine the biggest differences in pricing being trophy class as far as area, right? Kodiak bear is probably the 50K bear. And,
Yep.
and I might be off. So my fellow, my Alaskans that are listening, don't blow me up too bad for being off on pricing, but just trying to make a point, right? Your Kodiaks, your Southwest bears, they're bears where you're looking at the possibility of a 10-footer is where it's going to be expensive, right? And you're right. I mean, because those bears are smaller, I've heard multiple times an interior grizzly at 8 foot is more than a shooter
Yep.
bear. So I know,
Yeah, my bear,
just
I
kind of a
think
side,
well, go ahead, buddy.
I was gonna say, just a little side story too is, I worked with an outfitter up here. His name is Gary. I'll leave his last name out because he's a private fella. And anybody that knows me knows who I'm talking about. But Gary had guided brown bears, and his son still does, our grizzlies. And I don't know where his son's guiding at these days, but he's got a cool story of a trip when he was up in Alaska guiding. Scary story, but a grizzly breaking into the tent and I mean, literally on top of his client when Gary pulled out his, I don't know if it was a pistol or rifle, I can't remember, but pulled out one of his guns, ended up shooting the bear off his client, and he's actually got that bear hide hanging in his cabin here in Idaho still to this day.
Oh, that's cool.
But, one of the first things that struck me about that hide, because it was kind of before I understood all the differences in grizzly bear versus brown bear and stuff like that, was that it was like, oh, it's like maybe a black bear size hide, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
the most monstrous bear that I would have expected from the story. So, but
Yeah,
beautiful, same thing, blonde Arctic bear.
they don't get massive. There's caribou and muskox, and there's some moose up on the North Slope. Most of their food is gonna be, they have an omnivorous diet mostly. There's some rivers, but they don't have robust returns of fish in them. There's char and stuff up there. They eat a lot of berries and roots, and, they den a long time. The winters are harsh, and so it's, like mine might be 7 foot. I never really put a tape on it. It's probably in that range. Big head, they got the big heads, but not like a 28-inch head. It's like, 23 or something. I don't even know. But yeah, they're an impressive thing up there. There's a lot of them, and it's an issue. It's becoming an issue up there, I think, because for non-residents to get that tag, you have to draw, and then you have to buy an outfit. You gotta go with an outfitter, and at the time I went, this is about, you know, looking at it when I did it, and part of the reason I did it when I did was there was no other game in town, and it was gonna not get any cheaper because you could no longer it was before BC banned theirs, I think, but Alberta had shut
Mm.
down, and so I was like, "So basically you can go to Russia or Alaska or the Northwest Territories or some of those northern Canada. And I was like, man, it's getting pretty tough. And the Northwest Territories is really expensive. So at the time I booked mine, and I don't have trouble. It was about 14 grand to book that North Slope hunt, and they're a smaller bear. And at that time, to go to Kodiak was probably in the 50s, or try an even coastal hunt. And now, I mean, we're doing that brown bear hunt giveaway. So I've been kind of into the pricing, and I mean, you're well over 30 into 50s to hunt one of those big coastals or Kodiak. Even the interiors, like this bear hunt I went on's up in the 20s now. And so you see this happening, and I don't blame them, because Alaska is one of the easier places to go on a grizzly hunt, and people want to kill a grizzly bear. It's one of so the demand's so high. Prices aren't going to go down. I always kind of tell people, like, you're gonna be die of sickness before you run out of money. So you just as well go enjoy your life. I think Randy Newberg said that or something, but I've just always been one of those guys that's like, you live once. I'm not gonna wait until I retire, because nothing's guaranteed. So I'm glad I
Yeah,
did it. It was adventure of a lifetime.
man, that's a good story, and I love it. It's so true. Is that you just can't. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. So
No.
waiting for the money or waiting for it to be the right time, and I've kind of explained that to people when I came back from my caribou hunt, and now I tell the story about my experience on the North Slope up there. And they're like, man, that's so cool. I don't know if I could afford that. And I'm telling you, and this isn't a secret, I'm giving away any secrets and going to ruin caribou hunting in Alaska. But a DIY caribou hunt is incredibly possible. And honestly, it's probably cheaper than a DIY elk hunt in most Western states. I
You're
mean,
not kidding.
logistically, maybe a little bit more challenging. Once you've done it, and you kinda have, like, the veil pulled aside, it's really not, an intimidating process to go hunt
No.
caribou, and I would adventure. I mean, obviously, your success rate DIY could potentially be lower on, like, a moose hunt, but you could go do it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not gonna break your bank. The most expensive parts are gonna be your airfare and you're bringing your meat and trophy back. That's expensive.
Yeah.
But a little tip, if anybody is in the military, got out of the military, and you still have your cat card ID and you fly Alaska Airlines, just tell them, oh, I'm flying military. And they love, more likely than not, just say, oh, okay, here, we'll check your bags for free. That's how I got my caribou meat and trophy home. Uh,
Nice.
for
Oh, that's
free. I
awesome.
didn't have yeah, I didn't have to pay for my checked bags. So it's like, "Well, does it help that I'm military?" She looks at my, military ID, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, it saves you about $300."
Dang,
So,
that's
a
worth it
little
when
oh, yeah, little hot tip for veterans and military guys, man. Like, I don't like to always take advantage because I didn't serve for discounts and freebies, but that was a good
no,
one.
but, you can take a luxury once in a while. That is an expense
Well,
that
let's face it.
sucks coming out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, but well, that's awesome, man. Well, love the story. And, I definitely would love to get up and do that kinda hunt. I always kinda half jokingly, half serious say that I'm just gonna go be an Alaska resident for a
It's
number
worth
of
it.
years, pay my dues so I can go hunt all the animals that I wanna hunt up there for sure, and I'm sure all of my Alaska listeners are rolling their eyes at me like, "Oh, yeah, man, just wait till it's up here in -45 and dark all winter."
Yeah.
Challenge accepted, man. We'll get up there one of these days, but hey, everybody, I just wanna take a quick break to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and to thank you today, I wanna offer you a discount at 360 Sportsman. Head over to sportsman.org now and use promo code PF15. That is PF15 to get 15% off your subscription to any of their master classes listed on the website. You can learn anything over there to improve your skills at hunting, fishing, trapping, snowmobiling. There's going to be first aid classes up there. They've got all kinds of stuff. There's even a how to build a house class coming. So anything you want to learn related to the outdoors or just making yourself a more knowledgeable human being, head over to 360sportsman.org. Use promo code PF15 to get 15% off any of their master classes. Want to thank you for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. Yeah, so sweet. Kind of moving on, I just wanted to maybe spend some time going over some of the updates. I know you're busy with foundation. You guys got a lot going on. So I think you
Yeah.
guys are an important conservation organization. So what's going on with you guys right now?
It's a busy time of year for us. We have our annual banquet every year, and it's kind of early on it was kind of more of a regional banquet, and it's turned into our national kind of banquet. It's nothing like the SCI or SHOT Show or anything like that, but we have like a 2-day event in Cody, Wyoming, and we get a lot of our folks from all over the United States come. We got people from Virginia, Washington, California. They come from all over to Cody. We had moved that from January to March, so we're in heavy like banquet setup planning time, and happy we've sold it out every year. We're about there already this year, and so doing a lot of prep for that. At the same time, we're doing this brown bear hunt raffle, and those two things alone will fund us for the year. And so, we kind of try and get all our funding done at the beginning of the year. So then we have money throughout the rest of the year to do projects and to advocate and help support hunting. And so, yeah, those two big fundraisers going on. And then, it's been a good year as far as like we just launched another chapter. So Wyoming has its own chapter now, and we're in the process of like we got like probably 3 more this year that'll be chapters coming up. So we're going to expand out onto the east seaboard there, looking at maybe one in the Carolina area. We're looking at Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Idaho, Alaska, Montana. Putting all those together is a big challenge sometimes. Just because we are all volunteers, so a lot falls on us that are working full-time jobs every day to do it. But yeah, so doing that, and it's been a relatively quiet and kind of time lately. It hasn't been terrible. Last year was way worse. I think a couple of our states are maybe in budget sessions, and that tends to not be as bad for bad wildlife bills. I know Wyoming's in a budget session, so we haven't seen really any wildlife bills come out, but there's some other states that they're doing some crazy things. I mean, many people, I'm not sure when they're going to hear this, but are probably privy to the fact that California wants to introduce grizzly bears, which is an insane thought. Yeah, so that you have stuff like that going on, and then you have, which to me is not that serious because I just don't think I don't know if anyone's really put pen to paper and figured out. These are, I'll say it, they're idiot legislators that have no idea what this entails, like doing this. But then you have bills like, there's a bill in Oklahoma right now that's not very good. It's Bill 4128. Been working with some folks down there. Basically, it's going to expand like the season so long that it would provide an opportunity for someone that's very unethical to harvest a bear in its den. There's no need to have a season that runs into January when sows are having cubs, and the potential for the backlash to hunting is just ridiculous that's even being considered. So we're working on that bill. Don't think it's passed one committee. It's going to another committee as early as maybe this week. I'm guessing it's going to be next week. So kind of tracking that one. And then you got every state seems like there's something little going on, and why if we don't live there, it might not be as important to us. But when you talk to folks that are in that area, it really is like that is the hill they're going to die on. And it really puts it into perspective because, like, that's what I think hunting has been through a lot of is, well, it's over there. I don't have to deal with it. I'm good in my state. And it comes up that way with legislation. Like when they're trying to do something with hound hunting or stop hound hunting, you're like, and a lot of people are like, well, that's in Virginia. I live in Idaho, who cares? And it's like, no, that's kind of why we're in the boat we're in. Like those things happen in one place. It's going to have an effect in other places eventually. So we try and stay on it. I will say our chapters do a tremendous job when it comes to this type of stuff. Those guys are so dialed in every state we have a chapter, and that's the importance of them because they're just there. They live there. They understand the nuances. They understand the importance of these bills. And so, yeah, we're tracking a few, but nothing outlandish yet. And usually what I do is if you're a member of the foundation, like I'll send out calls to action for any of these bills. And so like there'll probably be a call to action for Oklahoma to all our members and anyone that I have your email address. And I'll line out bullet points and kind of who to contact and try and get bear hunters across the United States involved in these issues. And that's important. And we lean on Howl a lot, Howl for Wildlife, because they have a bigger platform than us and they're kind of built for this kind of legislative action and getting the mass word out. So we use them a lot too. But yeah, nothing real crazy as of yet, but it's still early.
Yeah, it's still early. And I mean, it's things that I think are worth talking about now, right? Even if these don't become a big issue this year, it's just kind of like with the broader public lands legislation that we've been fighting here recently with, Mike Lee's stuff. And it's it's going to come back, right? And usually when it comes back up, it comes back with more force than it did the first time, and so that's kind of what always concerns me because I feel like when we see these bills come up, or in Washington's case, some shady language in a game management plan. They come up and they seem like really nothing burgers. They fade into the background. They don't pass, this committee or that committee, or they don't make it through one of the legislators or legislatures houses, like a Senate or House or whatever. But they're gonna usually come back, right? And then, like you said, once they're passed in one state, that now opens that door for another state legislator to be like, well, look what they did. I bet I can do that over here. And it's just a death by a thousand cuts, and that's what's happening to
Mhm.
the hunting community everywhere. And that's what's happened to the trapping community. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we don't have trapping in a lot of states within the next decade or so. I mean, it's such a low-hanging fruit. And even in Montana, where trapping is a true like historic pastime, it's
Mhm.
tradition. I mean, that's where you see all the anti-trapping billboards is driving through Missoula and Bozeman, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm not gonna pretend to be aware of the political spectrum over there, but, compared to here in Idaho, but to me, that's still concerning. And a couple of things that just I note, I pick up on just with the Oklahoma thing. I really kind of like that you highlight that as an issue because I think it really shows the stewardship heart of hunters of the American Bear Foundation. This is a bill that's increasing hunter access to the resource, really, right? Which
Yep.
obviously at face value sounds great. You're like, oh man, extended seasons, I can bait longer and all these things. Yeah, at face value as a hunter, you're like, yes, access to the resource. That sounds great. But, smart hunters and true stewards look at this. And I like before we started talking, some of the issues you brought up. One, and I never knew about this until you told me just now, was the mass crop issue, right? When the
Mhm.
acorns, or I guess I'm wearing Clay's hat, so maybe I should say acorns. But
Yeah.
when the acorns fall, that's a tremendous food source available to the bears. When they're not on the ground or maybe a poor mass crop, it's a lot easier to bait because now you're the only food source in the area. And so I never considered that a season start date would, have
Yes.
anything to do with mass crop because, here, like you said, in the Western states, we don't really worry about that. We always have grass growing in the spring. We always have berries growing in the fall. So it's like, yeah, that was a really interesting point. But I like this. I'll sum it up is that, a hunter based conservation foundation is raising your hand, right? And saying, hey, as hunters, we don't think that this extended access is appropriate, right? This is going to put these bears in danger, and we want to hold the ethical high ground on that because we love the resource and we respect the bears, especially when it comes to, like you said, the denning bears with sows. And I've heard people here in Idaho in the past say, well, any any dead predator is a good predator, right? Just whatever. I don't care about hunting bears for size or this and that. They just
Yeah.
want to kill predators and help the elk herd. And I get some of that sentiment. Obviously, I do for wolves, but bears don't have cubs every year in massive litters like wolves do, right? So if we start killing sows and dens,
Oh,
obviously that's
it
a
takes
huge risk
years.
to population.
It takes years to recover that, and I was talking, with some folks the other day about this, like, there's a couple things going on here, and one thing that I'll tell right now that I want people to understand about our foundation is and our slogan is for bears and bear hunters. Bears, we have to have bears on the landscape to be bear hunters, like, so we have to be stewards of that resource, and I love bears. When we look at a place like Oklahoma that has basically a population of bears because they're bleeding out of Arkansas, and so that's not like what we have. It's almost like an island population. They're not all over the state. And so it's a limited resource in terms of like it could be hunted too much in a short amount of time that really puts it in danger. And then you start seeing that effects of now are more bears, what's happening to that Arkansas borderline and some of the things going on there. But, there's the ethical ramifications of it. And, we feel that anytime a bill is coming out concerning wildlife, it's probably bad because legislators should not be mandating or making wildlife decisions. There's a very good bear biologists in a lot of these places, and sometimes their voice is not heard because if a bill comes out, that's the law. you know? If it's done by commission or in a planning session or like, say, like you mentioned Washington, with their management plan, like a management plan can be changed relatively easy if the right people are involved. To get something changed legislatively is a nightmare. Colorado did it with spring bear hunting a long time ago. It's legislatively illegal. You cannot, it's a law. You can't spring bear hunt. So to get that changed with the political landscape in Colorado right now would be impossible. Like you would never get that through. So now you're putting a bill, if that thing passes and it goes on the books. So now you put that out there as law. And that is going to be out there for a long time until it gets changed. And are we going to have enough time to do what's right for the bears before they're all gone because of this? It's a different scenario than we're used to out west baiting these things. Once those mass crops gone, or if they have a bad mass crop, like those bears are hammering baits, and like it just doesn't seem scientific enough, and it's not based in any conservation like model or method I've ever heard. I think it's just more a guy's pissed off because he hasn't killed a bear yet, so he wants to make it easier, and this is his way to do it, rather than, hey, let's go to the game and fish and see what we can do to increase hunter opportunity, but still maintain a robust bear population to make sure we have bears to hunt for our grandkids. That seems like the most reasonable thing to do, but not everyone has reason.
1,000%, man. And, I bring up a good point too with legislators don't need to be making wildlife management decisions. I mean, we actually have a law that I think when I was reading about it earlier today, I think it just passed the House and maybe is on its way to the Senate. And I might be a little bit wrong. So sorry if I am, but this looks like this law might end up passing, and it's essentially going to make it to where our wildlife commissioner will now be appointed by the governor, right? So it's a political appointee, and and I love my state, but I just think that there's too much conflict of interest to have our governor be making that kind of decision, right? And I'm pretty sure Brad Little is very much tied into the ranching community, right? And the ranchers. And man, I love our ranchers. I am all about taking care of farmers and ranchers. I think that if we really want to put America first, we need to stop selling off our ranches and farms to corporations and support our family owned ranches. So don't take this to me as an anti-rancher statement, but they're at the front lines of wildlife conflict, right? Whether it's crop damage from elk or they don't like wolves because they run outfits on their private ranches, whatever it is, they're usually on the front, or they're losing livestock to wolves, right? So they're on the front lines of wildlife conflict, when it comes to humans and their damage to their resource and their livelihoods. They can make emotional decisions, right? They might say, well, let's get rid of all bear, or we need to kill more elk in this area. And maybe that would be true, but maybe it's not. And I really don't think that it's good to have that conflict of interest, right? And maybe that won't exist with some governors, but it might with others. I just don't think it's a good solution
It's
at all.
it's great when it works, and in a lot of states, it's worked for a long time, and depending on the political climate of your state, you're in a good spot. If you wanna see when it doesn't work, just look at Washington, because their
Yep.
Game and Fish Commission was appointed by a governor, and it's full of, they're not all that way, but there are 4 or so on there that are basically railroading the entire Washington system and hunting, and it only takes that. I mean, it takes one, and then another one gets in there, and then all of a sudden it's changed. So, yeah, I don't like wildlife used as a political bargaining chip, because the only thing that ends up losing the worst is wildlife. Anytime humans get involved, it ruins it. It's just like we are so good at destroying things that we love and that we have on this landscape, whether there's many things, but I just think like a lot of times when humans get involved, we do the wrong thing for not just wildlife, but for other things. But that's where we're at with this delisting and all these other things, and that's where we're at with this, like California and Washington grizzly bear reintroduction. Like, why do we have to force that? If grizzly bears
Yeah.
need to get there, why not let them get there naturally? That makes more sense to me than dropping them out of the greater Yellowstone or the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem and putting them in California, which is an entirely different habitat and everything. Like, it's night and day, and so
Well,
and
I
then
mean,
the
let's just
population. humans are everywhere.
Exactly. I mean, let's just learn from the mistake that Colorado just made with their botched wolf reintroduction, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that has gone nothing but sideways on those people and not worked out at all. The thing about the grizzly bear, I think you nailed it, right? Let them wander in. It's just like even with Colorado, they could have just continued to let wolves wander in from Wyoming. It was already happening, right? And there's already grizzlies wandering into Northeast Washington from Idaho.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
there's grizzly bears up there, but I will tell you, depending on what Fish and Wildlife employee you talk to in Washington, they're going to tell, "Oh, there's no grizzlies up there."
No, no.
BS, man. There's grizzlies in Northeast Washington, but I mean, we could do a whole show. One of these days I'm gonna get I think it's gosh, I hope I'm right, man. I could look at my phone, but Kelsey from Washington, she is just kicking butt over there. I'm trying to think of the
I
name of
know
that
exactly who you're
organization, but
talking.
yeah,
It's
man.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. And I apologize, Kelsey. It's been a long work day. But man, yeah, her and I have communicated. We are going to get her on the show one of these
That would
days.
be
And
great.
we'll do a whole podcast just talking all about the messed up stuff going on in Washington. Because a lot of my listeners live over there in Washington. So I think they would really appreciate that. And you can't shed enough light on that corruption. Although with that commission, they've exposed it. It's not like it's a
Mhm.
secret yet. I mean, that's just the disappointing part of our country. Again, a whole nother topic of
Yeah. Like,
corruption being exposed and nothing being done
you
about it.
you get
But
rewarded in this country anymore for being
yeah,
a bad person. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I look at, like, these reintroduction things, and they're just silly to me. Like, I understand, California had grizzly bears at one time, and I understand Wyoming had them, and Montana did, and Idaho did, and they're all over the place. But what people forget to grasp is that we have taken over most of those spaces, and so it's not viable for a species to be the grizzly bear people are always like, "Oh, they're not recovered till they're back to 90% of their home range." I'm like, "That's impossible." Like, we live there. They're not
yeah.
gonna go
Exactly.
back out on it's just insanity to me.
Gonna have them walking, the streets of L.A.
Yeah.
or San
If that's what's gonna
Francisco or
happen, I'm like, let
Sacramento.
it go for it, bud. See, all you gotta do is look at the history of how challenging the recovery we didn't reintroduce in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. We recovered because we had them here. Just look at the challenges of that since 1970s, and look how long we've been at this. And we still don't have it figured out as a population, as a game agency, as U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, how to deal with these grizzly bears. Now, the easy answer is let the states manage them because that's who should be managing them. That would solve a lot of problems. But these states that are looking at doing these reintroductions, I'm like, have you not seen how much money the states of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming have spent taxpayer dollars to recover these things? Because most of the money to recover the grizzly bear, comes from the state, not the feds. So, a few years ago, Wyoming was up to 44 million out of their pocket to recover the grizzly bear. California can't afford that. And then Washington's already got taxes so damn high. What are they going to do? They don't
Yeah.
think things through, I don't think, like, oh, just put some grizzly bears here. It'll be great.
Hey, folks, just wanted to take a quick break from the show to talk about my most recent partnership with a good friend of mine, Jake Collier, and his company, One Outdoors. One Outdoors provides a trusted place to purchase outdoor experiences, gear, and services. They aim to positively impact people and the environment by donating 10% of all of their net profits to Restoration Outdoors, a nonprofit, which in turn invests in mental health and conservation. One Outdoors offers trips around the globe, whether you're interested in hunting in Africa or fishing in Alaska, Patagonia, and more. They can customize your outdoor experiences and beyond just hunting and fishing to whitewater rafting. You name it, folks. If you can dream it up in the outdoors, One Outdoors can help make that dream come true. And I'm proud to be partnering with them and consulting on trips and hunts. So if you're interested in booking a trip of a lifetime with One Outdoors, you can reach me or reach out to me at Thomas at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. It's Thomas at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com, or you can contact me directly through Instagram, Facebook, you name it. But One Outdoors, folks, really excited to be working with these guys. So thank you very much for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show. Yeah, I mean, I get the romantic idea of it. I actually talked to Tom Snyder about this kind of thing with wolves. Having not been here, like I told him, having not been here before wolves were back on the landscape, I don't know how good the elk hunting was. I can
Mhm.
imagine it was phenomenal based on what everyone's told me. So even me as I like to think that I've pretty well grasped the importance of predator management. The first time I heard a wolf howl in the woods when I was elk hunting, I didn't get mad. I was like, "Oh man, like really living in the north woods now, man. There's wolves up here. Like, how cool is this?" So a little part of me can kind of understand the whole romantic idea of having these animals, these predators on the landscape. Um, part of me does like that I have wolves on the landscape is just, I don't know, it's a dumb thing to be able to say like, yeah, we got wolves here. But that's still like, even though I think there's a little bit of a cool romantic idea behind it, I still don't think that it's been done well. I don't, I tentatively would say I still like having wolves on the landscape, but I want them to be managed better and more. I want more of them killed, so that we can recover our elk herds in these damaged areas. But just talking to Tom on that episode and then even more offline and just diving into it more. I mean, not that I'm all about eradicating the wolves now, but I would agree that if we could go back and not have reintroduced the wolves onto the landscape in Idaho and Montana and in Wyoming, if they were not reintroduced, but if we didn't bring back wolves the way we did, I don't think that we would have an overabundance of elk. I don't think we would have, and I say overabundance, like, I mean, like, oh my gosh, we have way too many elk. I think we'd be like, yes, hunting is great. We would have never had to go to a non-resident draw, right? We could be still selling OTC elk tags over the counter. Why am I for that? Because, man, that's where the money comes from for state game agencies,
Yeah.
right? I
Yep.
mean, really, all you did was hurt wildlife, like you said, right? It hurt wildlife because we got involved, and it's affecting our hunting tourism. I mean, we don't have
Mhm.
the tag availability to our non-residents anymore, and I mean, I'm sure there's more than just wolves to blame for that, but I think wolves are a huge factor in that. If you ask anybody up here where I hunt, Tom Schneider, outfitters, guys that have been around and grew up here, they'll all tell you the same thing. Wolves have ruined it.
Mhm.
And the last thing I'll say about it, because I'm ranting, is just, yeah, I do think there's a little bit of a balance where these animals, these big game herds have learned to survive and to deal with. They're starting to figure it out. They're starting to figure the wolves out. There are trappers and hunters out there that have gotten more successful. I know of one trapper that's really truly affected a pack pretty good. But yeah, it's still never going to be what it was before we
No.
reintroduced wolves. And I just don't think that any romantic idea is ever going to convince anybody that knows better that it was worth it.
No, it's happened across the West with those wolves, and, I as a bear guy, I'm kinda with you, Tom. I like the idea that wolves and grizzly bears are on the landscape. I freaking just love going out and being like, I could hunt them for one. That's the main reason, selfishly, like, I can hunt wolves here, so I'm okay with them being out there 'cause I wanna kill one. I like that we can manage them, but I don't like that, like, we're it seems the state's hands are tied pretty tight when it comes to managing because they're afraid they're gonna get sued and there's gonna be they're trying to manage it so finely because if they go too far one way, it's gonna just elicit a ton of backlash and lawsuits, and so it's like they're just trying to get through each year like, "Okay, we can incrementally add or maybe we can't," and what you're seeing is they're breeding out past what we're killing, and, I'm not a wolf expert by any means, I'm more of a bear guy. I do see, wolves are, man, they're tough on critters. People always blame bears for killing a lot of stuff too. Not like wolves, but bears are usually like, "Oh, these bears are killing everything." They kill a lot of calves and fawns, but bears are not strict carnivores. Bears can survive without eating meat. Wolves cannot. Mountain lions cannot. There's certain animals out there that's what they eat only. And a bear, can make it. That's why black bears have thrived in the United States since forever because they don't depend on one food source, and why wolves were basically removed from the lower 48 at one time because, they're only eat meat, you know how to kill them, and so that's why I love bears so much. They're just so much more of a survivor, but they're not just killing. Like, bears are not just killers. They eat most of their diet, especially in the spring, and you get some around calving season, and I damn sure seen bears kill calves, but it's not like they're not killing them every day, multiple a day to survive, and they're not trying to feed packs. It's one bear,
Right.
It's just different, but they to me, and I kinda went sideways there, but they both to me represent, like, true wild places and wildlife. Like, I love going out and all the apex predators are hunting with me, or hunting me. I just that to me is being alive out hunting, but dang, we need to manage them at the state level and do a it's not the state's fault, and I will say this for a lot of places now, not every state, but a lot of the state agencies are on the side of the hunter and they get it. But your local game warden or your local biologist doesn't have enough sway to get a lot of that stuff changed. It's just the fact of the matter is it's
Right.
turning political for all of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I know if the state of Idaho, and I'm sure it's the same in Wyoming, and I would guess the same in Montana, that if they had their way, I mean, wolves
Oh,
would
yeah,
be managed way more strict than they are.
absolutely.
Idaho does a pretty good job, and we have a very liberal wolf hunting season. There's no bag limit, just as many tags as you want to buy and fill. Obviously, wolves are hard, difficult to hunt, so there's not a high number of hunters pursuing wolves, but you can absolutely pursue them. And they've taken some of the gloves off, even with method of take and technology that you can use for wolves. We can trap wolves. But where we kind of get screwed over is these lawsuits that you were talking
Mhm.
about, right? Idaho getting sued. And it's the same thing with bear hunting, right? We got
Yep.
sued to end wolf trapping, or we can't trap wolves during a certain time because the activists don't want us to accidentally trap grizzlies, which has absolutely never happened. There is not one documented case
Well,
of a grizzly bear that I
they
know of
use the
being trapped
grizzly
in
as
a
a crutch and everything because they
yeah,
know if they
because it's
say grizzly bear, it's gonna just
yep,
elicit a whole bunch of hate. You're being sued now in Idaho on the same for black bear baiting, and they're
yep,
using the grizzly bear. They're saying, "Well, we don't
yep,
want grizzly bears to get killed on," and this suit was already tried by the state of Wyoming and Idaho fought it together, won, and then a guy kills a grizzly bear on accident in the Panhandle there last year,
yep,
and that suit come right back, but it's only in Idaho right now. And so it's
yeah.
all based on but I've talked to some people, tried to reach out to the group suing to try and, let's talk about bear baiting and why you hate it. And like maybe there's some misconceptions. They're like, oh, we absolutely will not we will die on the hill of bear baiting. It has nothing to do with the grizzly bear. It's all about baiting bears. So they're just using the grizzly bear to of a means
Yep.
to an end.
Yeah, that was, quite the incident. I mean, so for folks in Idaho, you probably are aware of why, but if you're not aware of why, that you have to take a bear ID test to get your bear tag now, that's because of that incident, and it was cool. I won't divulge his name, but I know the warden, I know the wardens in the area, and not super well. I'm not claiming to be their friends, but I got to hear a little bit of the backstory. But the bummer of that story was kind of for the hunter, right? I feel bad for him. If you're not aware, that hunter had gotten pictures of this bear on camera, and it was a small, uh, somewhat chocolate colored grizzly bear. Right? And so we have plenty of color phase bears in Idaho, or black bears, right? We have tons. My first black bear, you look, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you might be like, oh, that could be a grizzly, right? She got blonde shoulders, cinnamon, cinnamon going to dark brown, and she's beautiful, big 18-year-old sow. It was, she's a beautiful bear. But my point being is that he ended up sending those pictures to the warden out there. He asked him like, "Hey, I think this might be a grizzly bear, but this isn't normally grizzly area, right? This was pretty far south of where grizzlies were known to be ranging." And that warden, they published the poor dude's text string. It's like, "Oh no, you got yourself a chocolate or cinnamon brown bear or black bear, whatever. You're good to go." And totally, he even's like, "Yeah, if you look at this feature, definitely a black bear, not a grizzly bear." And so that hunter was like, "Oh, sweet, man. I guess I was wrong." And he went out and shot the bear, brought it to check it in, and sure enough, it was a grizzly bear. And rest
What a
assured that warden
Mm.
has been talked to and made fun of. Uh,
Oh, I'm sure he
but
has.
yeah, uh, because that was a bummer, and that's what resulted in that lawsuit. And yeah, they want to ban bear baiting. And the
Mm.
other dumb thing is Idaho's not naive to bear baiting grizzly conflicts,
Oh,
being
yeah.
a potential thing, right? We already can't bait in some units that have grizzly bears because of
Yeah, any of
the
that
thing. It's
GYE stuff
yep.
you guys can't bait.
Yep, we can't bait in Unit 1, which is the Northern Panhandle. We can't bait or
Mm.
run hounds because of the grizzly bear. So,
Yep.
um, which is a spot spot and stalk hunter, it's kind of nice to have places where you can go and get away from the hounds. But I do like to hunt over bait too. But it's
Oh, yeah.
to me, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's BS that we're getting sued over it. I think bear baiting should be legal everywhere you can hunt bears as long as it makes,
Well, just
you know.
because someone doesn't like it, it shouldn't be. You know, like, it's a pastime and it's a way of taking bears that's been happening on the landscape for a long time. We've lost it in a lot of places, but it's a damn sure it's a good tool for the management teams to use to manage bear populations. That's how they happen.
Yep.
Some places where you guys are at in Idaho, you ain't spot and stalking anything. It's so
Nope.
damn
Yeah.
thick. You
I
need
mean,
bait to kill bears or hounds.
that's kind of the thing, like, around my immediate area where I live, that's what most guys do, right? And that's how I got my break into bear hunting was over bait. My first 2 bears were baited bears, and I can tell you too, it is not easy to hunt or bait bears. I mean, it's a lot of work physically to, lug a barrel out into the woods and lug the bait out there and check on it regularly. You're checking your pictures, and then you're gonna have to put your time in the stand, and there's a lot of thought and just trying to pick a good spot where you're gonna, um, get a number of bears coming through. It's not easy. There's a lot of effort that goes into bear baiting. I actually started doing more spot and stalk out of laziness because I just like, "Ah, dude, I don't really feel like setting up a
It's
bait this year."
It's so true. I always
Yep.
laugh because we all call it bear baiting, and that is exactly what it is. They don't call it bear hunting over bait because
Yep.
when you're a bear bait guy, and I've spent a lot of time doing it, a lot of years, and I have kinda gone to the same route where I grew up spot and stock, moved to a state where I could bait, did that for a number of years, and kinda got to be like, I still run baits, but man, the amount of time and effort and money that it takes because the amount of times you get to hunt your bait versus the amount of times you're in there maintaining it, it's unreal. Like you're hunting it not very often, but you're up there managing these damn baits nonstop. And that's why it's called bear baiting. Because if you want to go bear bait and hunt bears over bait, you're going to be baiting. It is a lot of damn work.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I kind of wanted to touch on is to change gears a little bit before we wrap it up. I had been kind of using the tagline on a lot of the posts for this bear hunting month as it's coming to an end here. And that's been some sort of either make bear hunting great or make bear hunting great again. And I say great again because, most bear hunting historians would know that bear hunting was extremely, I don't want to say popular doesn't sound like the right word, but it was the thing to do, in the early expansion into the American West. Bear meat was more desired than
Hmm.
white-tailed deer meat, mule deer meat, right? The grease was utilized. And so bear hunting was a big deal because it was a really important resource. And so that's where I get the bear hunting great again. But my question for you is, I had a little bit of a conversation with a fella who was real polite, and this was not an argument, but he did bring up something that I've thought about this too and heard other people talk about it is how much attention do you really want to go to making bear hunting great again if we make it a crowded hunt like elk hunting, right? My initial thoughts are my little show here that we're listening to right now is not going to make that big of a difference. And then the other counter argument, and I think we discussed this last time you were on, is that in order for a species to really receive attention and funds and conservation effort, it kind of has to be valuable. And I know it might sound to some off putting to say it has to be valuable, but that just is what it is, right? One of the reasons why we've put so much effort into bringing back elk through the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or white-tailed deer have become so recovered, um, is because hunters value that animal. And it's the same thing with mule deer. Unfortunately, we're just not seeing the success story with mule deer right now, but a ton of money and efforts getting poured into mule deer because hunters value mule deer. And so I would say while we're not in a bear population crisis as far as black bears are concerned, I just don't want to get there. So in my mind, let's just get ahead of it now, make bear hunting great so hunters value bears. Kind of was wondering what your take on this is.
Yeah, it's been I get it a lot because of what we do with the foundation and because I'm a bear hunter, that's my number one thing. I would rather bear hunt than do anything. People always ask me like, "Dude, you do so much work to like get more people bear hunting and get more people into the sport." Like, and I had one buddy because we hunt the same I hunt these same areas in Wyoming, and there's been a lot of years where, I mean, I spent some good time in 4 or 5 years in some of these areas and wouldn't see a soul. And it came up, 2 years ago, there was someone kinda bombing around, and I was up glass, and I'm like, "You know, that truck I've never seen in here." I'm way off the road on a glassing knob that I use and can kinda see the road, and he was just like, "Someone's using your new bear hunter probably," and I was like, "Yeah," it's tough for me in respects of, like, as a bear hunter that loves to where I grew up, bear hunting was very crowded. Lots of people love bear hunting. In Southwest Montana, it's very popular. So it was more it's not like an elk opener, but there you were gonna bump into guys. People were out in the spring bear hunting. Where I live now and the places I hunt now are so ridiculously full of grizzly bears, it really limits the amount of people that are willing to go do that. And so I've always had that kind of ability to get away from people. But as bear hunting becomes more popular, and I just saw a Wyoming metric, one of the least populated states in the West for bears is Wyoming. And every year we're selling more bear tags and we're killing more bears. So bear hunting is becoming more popular. And there's a part of me as a bear hunter that likes my spots that's like, gosh dang, are we going to get to a point where it's like, oh, I can't go there. There's someone there. There's someone there. There's someone there. No, you hit it on the head there. I think like people don't value them as much. Most bear hunters that I run into are just looking for something to do in the spring. That the amount of people that are like me or any of those guys that are like, listen, I'm a bear hunter, that they're few and far between. And you kind of learn where and who and how they're doing things, and you just kind of everyone stays in their own lane. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Like we're advocating for more bear hunters. And we're trying to, increase the amount of people in the United States that appreciate black bears and that want to go bear hunting. And at the same time, we're really watching what it's doing to our resource. And are we ruining hunting opportunity by being bear hunting advocates? Like, I don't think we are yet. And I don't think we ever will be. You know, there's the whole Matt Ranella thing going on, and that kind of is it's the same conversation, right? Like these people are, if you're an influencer or whatever, I don't know what that is, but like they're promoting hunting maybe to a point that like it's makes other people think like, well, there's too many hunters out there now because all these influencers and it's social media and all this and that. You could talk about the same thing in any sport, really, or for any species. I think bear hunters, in by and large, are a small number. I can't envision us getting to a level of where it's a problem because why wouldn't we be there already? We've been able to bear hunt for so long and it's just never, and I think there's ebbs and flows in it. I think there's times when people really get into it and then there's years where it's like, so I don't know. It's hard. I deal with it all the time. I'm always thinking about it. Like, man, I like to not have to worry about someone in my spot. And here I am going on a podcast, promoting bear hunting. But at the end of the day, for me, I love bears more than anything. So if we can put more people out there that appreciate bears, like that's what I care about. Not as much as my hunting spot, but people that care about bears enough to where we're going to have robust black bear populations. People respect black bears and they look at them like I do, like that's a win for me.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna explode bear hunting. Will it get more popular? Yeah, I think it will continue to get more popular, but I think you nailed it, man. I don't think it's ever going to explode like elk or mule deer out west, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think you could key in on two big ones. They don't have antlers
Yeah.
and they're still just not seen as a food item. And I
Yep.
think those two reasons right there is what keeps bear hunters at a more of a minimum. When I talk to hunters that don't live in like, your normal bear hunting states, and I tell them that I eat bear, even from hunters, I get a sideways look. Oh, really? Aren't they just greasy and full of worms? I mean, and even season. I think we talked about this last time too on the show. Is even seasoned bear hunters or hunters up here have that stigma about bear meat. So I don't think I have to really do a whole lot and worry about it because I think that the stigma behind worm-filled greasy bear meat is gonna probably keep some of the hunters away. Because obviously some guys are gonna come out and they want their bear hide. Most of the clients that we had come out when I was working for the outfitter up here, they they just wanted the hide. They weren't really super interested in the meat, and that's what most people do when they go up and shoot grizzly and brown bears up in Alaska is they're just bringing home the hide. They're not super concerned about the meat. And already talked about, both of us agree bear meat is phenomenal food. I had, Charles Whitwam on from Howell, and we talked about how much he loves bear meat. So it's
Yeah,
good food, but I think those are the big reasons, man. People don't think of them as edible and they don't have antlers. So I don't think we're going to see a huge influx of bear hunters. And then two, them boys down east, man, like they like to hunt turkeys in the spring. And I don't think a lot of those fellas are going to give up their turkey season because it's like a religion down, in the southeastern
yeah.
US, man, when it comes to turkey hunting. I don't think they're going to be super willing to give up their turkey seasons to go bear hunting. I even have a fella, like I told you before the show, he's coming from South Carolina all the way to Idaho and Washington, and it ain't to hunt bears this spring. He's coming to hunt turkeys.
I cannot grasp that. That is a foreign concept to me, but it's the same way I feel about bears. I think what's happens with bear hunters, there's bear hunters and then there's people that want to hunt bears for like to get one hide or one mount. And then they're
Right.
pretty much out of the equation. I see it a lot. I just want to get one, I'd really like to have a bear. Okay, cool. And it's not their thing, it's not their passion. So I think that people that are super passionate and they're bear hunting every year, regardless of how many bears they've killed, like those of us, we're pretty few and far between. Like I will sacrifice my days off and everything in bear season. I don't care if I have a day off for deer and elk, or I'll put all my chips into that. That's what I like to do. That's my thing. And I think that number is small in the bear hunting community.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think those are pretty valid points, and I do think that our bear hunting is safe. But and I've tried. I never became an avid listener. I did try to listen to Matt Rinella's podcast, but he had what's land
Tawny?
whatever that on and that was an interesting episode because that was right after his not so graceful exit from BHA. But yeah, just I couldn't quite become a Matt Ranella fan, and that's not a knock on the dude, but I just think that it's an extreme view. I think that there's still value in increasing awareness and passion for these critters, like you were talking about. So I guess that's where I'd leave it. I think it's important. I think we need to make bears valuable and keep them that way. That way we
I
have them
agree.
here for future generations.
No, 100% agree. And I think we're in a good spot with bear hunting right now. I'm seeing more bear hunting opportunities open up. I think Mississippi's looking at opening up bear hunting. I mean, like Louisiana, Florida now. We've got bears, and I say this all the time. We got bears in almost every state in the United States. Like we probably have more bears on the landscape than we might have in a long time, I would say. And more people that are like us that really care about bears and bear hunting that are kind of beating the drum for them. So I would say we're in a good spot, but we're never in a spot where I want to get complacent with it. Like a bill or a crappy commission rule could happen tomorrow and could just pull the rug right out from under you. So we always have to stay vigilant and be watching it out. And that's the only thing that frustrates me at times with like the hunting community is like there's so many people that just wait for others to do for them. Like I don't got to worry about bear hunting because the American Bear Foundation is there. They'll fight for it. Crap, we're all volunteers. Like we need help, and it's like, oh, I don't got to worry about this because there's a guy in my town that's always at the commission meetings. Like that is
Right.
not sustainable, and that's where we're going to get in trouble. So I just always tell people stay active, engaged. Like don't be clueless on any of this stuff. If you're a hunter, like man, you should be dialed into all these things. Like no matter where you're at, what's going on. Like if they want to ban the use of dogs in New Hampshire, that should be important to you. It really should. I
Absolutely.
mean, we don't live in the 1800s where like it would take 2 years for that information to get to you. You have it in your hand on your phone at any time you want. You can Google these things. You can look these things up. You can follow bills. You can watch a damn commission meeting on your phone while you're working. I'm often listening to commission meetings in my earbuds while I'm working. Like you have access to all this stuff now. So there's really no excuse to be in the dark on a lot of these wildlife issues and hunting issues.
Yeah, agreed, man. And I think bears are in a really awesome situation because of the fact that they're currently abundant. Like, what a great opportunity to start the foundation and keep them abundant and keep our hunting
Yeah.
opportunities abundant, right? We're
Yep.
not fighting the battle. I mean, we can be watching out for attacks on hunting opportunities and really dialed in on that because we're not spending time worried about habitat, and not that we shouldn't pay attention to it, but we're not fighting for a species survival like we're doing with mule deer right now, right? We're not worried about
Yeah,
recovery. We have the resource. Now we just have to maintain and protect it. Let it expand.
exactly. Yep, 100%.
Well, good deal, man. Um on closing notes, I know we got the Spring Bear Bash coming up here in
Yeah,
Idaho. And gosh, I got that in my phone. I'll look it up. I'll give a shout
March
out for that. March 28th. And that's a Idaho Wildlife Foundation event.
Idaho Wildlife Federation is putting that on,
The
and they
Federation.
just asked us to have a kind of a presence there. I believe you're going, and a couple other members from Idaho are headed out that way to kind of just represent the foundation and talk to people about bear hunting. So that's going to be a cool thing if you're in that Coeur d'Alene area to check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, come by. It's going to be at the Vantage Point Brewing here in town. Really looking forward to getting to meet some folks in person too. That's going to be good. So we'll be there. Look forward to that. And yeah, look forward to maybe some adventures in the mountains here in Idaho. Get you over here and it'll be good
Yeah, got
times.
it. I got to make it happen. I
Yeah.
am going
Alrighty.
to Alaska in June, or I'll be there in May, early May. I'm super excited about that. And then I'm potentially going to go down and knock another bucket list item off. And that's to hunt the cactus country of I think where it's Arizona, New Mexico, somewhere down there for bears potentially this fall. So like the world of bear hunting is so big now, like there's so many opportunities. So looking to try and do some of those, but yeah, it's going to be a good year and I got to get to Idaho. I'm there all the time and I've never bear hunted and that's got to change. I got to get there in the fall.
Yeah, that would be a blast, man. I never thought about like a desert bear. That'd be pretty cool. I'd also be pretty
Got it.
interested in going down to California to do a bear hunt just because
Oh,
they're
yeah,
they're
that's
freaking
really high on my list.
they're abundant and there ain't a lot of people hunting bears, and
They're
I think you could
monsters
have.
down in that country too, man. They grow them big.
Could you imagine too? I mean, if you've never been in the Sierras, but yeah, I grew up in California. I spent a lot of time in the Sierras. And then even as an adult, before we moved back up to the Northwest, my wife and I spent a lot of our time off going to the Sierras. It is the Eastern Sierras in particular, some of the most beautiful, rugged country on the planet. And I would just love to get back into some of that wilderness in the fall season when all the tourists are gone and be looking for some big black bears. I think that would be beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
it's a great opportunity there. Man, they got giant bears. It's a hidden gem. Not enough people are thinking about it, and the barrier to go on that hunt in California is really low. They don't kill that many bears compared to the population they have. I mean, 60 to 80,000 bears in that state. They kill about 1,200 a year, I think. It's just so if that tells you anything, there's a great opportunity down there, and I will be hunting California at some point in time before I hang up my bear hunting hat. It's gonna happen there too. There's just I always encourage people, like, I'm putting in for points in Colorado, Oregon, other places, and I could go to Oregon and do the fall hunt over the counter, but I kinda wanna do a spring hunt over there, and so, like, there's so many opportunities to bear hunt in the United States, like, if you just don't draw an elk tag or you're not feeling great about your fall, like, there's some opportunities to go to a state and go bear hunting for really cheap. Yeah, so I always tell people, like, man, that you don't have to travel very far to have a great black bear adventure in the United States.
no, and just the last thing I'll add on that onto the onto the bear hunter recruitment theme. I mean, you nailed it, man. You wanna if you don't draw an elk tag here in Idaho, but you wanna come hunt in September when it's just absolutely. I mean, well, sometimes it's way too freaking hot, but it's beautiful. Get here early. The berries are out still, and you want to hear bugling elk and be on a hunt. Just come hunt fall black bear, man. You'll
Yeah,
get to be in elk country. It would be I mean, you get to kill a bear, see some beautiful country, and you'll have scouted where you hopefully will get to come and hunt an elk
there you
someday.
go. There you
You
go.
know?
I use it the other way. I'm the opposite. I use my elk and deer hunting as scouting for spring bear and fall bear.
Yeah.
Like people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Do you see that rub on that tree or that tree scratched up? Oh, there's black bear tracks." I'm always looking for bear hunting spots. Yeah, it's just a cool opportunity to get out in the field. I love taking people bear hunting. I think once you get people in front of a bear or two and you show them, and man, the spring is just remarkable time to be out in the hills.
Really
It is
is.
so special. It's my favorite time of year, and I love the fall too and the elk, but man, a May day when it's nice out and the birds are chirping and you're glassing for bears and big drainages, like, that's pretty tough for me to be top.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. The smells, the sounds,
Mhm.
the vibrant green on everything is just it's spectacular. Bluebird skies, big
Yep.
rainstorm off in the distance.
Yes.
It's it's pretty dang on cool. Um, obviously it's one of the reasons why we get out and hunt bears in the spring around here, and one of the reasons why I continue to pursue turkeys, which most people gawk at around here. They don't understand the fun of it, but yeah, maybe we'll do that. Get you out here one of these days and spend a few days trying to change your mind on turkeys too, convince you. But it's a ripping good time, man. Well, sweet. Any closing thoughts or anything before we get out of here for the night?
Just two, got our banquet coming up March 21st in Cody, Wyoming. Insane amount of good stuff. People from all over the country come. It's kind of a great place to be if you want to be a network with other bear hunters and just kind of feel in a space where bear hunting is the thing. Is It's pretty awesome. That's in Cody. You can reach out to me or check us out on all our socials on how to get tickets to that if you want. And then biggest one for us, we're giving away a brown bear hunt. We talked about it earlier, how hard it is to go on one of these now and how expensive they are. We have about a $45,000 package that we're giving away. We have raffle tickets for sale on our website. That's for big coastal brown bears in Alaska in 2027, all included. The hunt. We're giving away a pack, some taxidermy credit, and $5,000 in cash to help offset any travel expenses you have. So for $100, you could maybe win that once in a lifetime brown bear hunt. And yeah, so that's on our website. So those are our two big things. That's about it. And I just hope people get out and have a great spring. Enjoy it. Try and get someone outside with you. Take someone new. Take someone that doesn't understand it. Get them out with you and just kind of show them around.
Amen. Love it. All right. Joe Kondelis, the American Bear Foundation. Appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again. And if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors. Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical.